Somebody else open this one. Go ahead, Kenny.
I don't know what we're talking about.
Welcome to the Miserable Podcast.
Nah, I don't do that.
Where everything's made up and the points don't matter.
This is
Who can get that reference? If you're out there in podcast land, if you know that reference,
Or
please
America.
just comment or something.
10 extra points if you can name the original cast.
Get closer to the mic.
10 original points.
Not that close.
That was spiteful. I'm sorry, everybody. Not going to repeat myself. They know what I said.
He was about to say it again.
Welcome back to the Miserable Podcast. I never know if we're going to add all that front end stuff. So
We do.
either there was nonsense up there or it just started and you have no clue what I'm talking about.
Yeah, boy.
But this is the Miserable Podcast, and it is an episode number that you can see somewhere in the description or app or whatever you're using. How you doing, Paulie?
Great.
You look very relaxed and at home.
I wish I was.
I wish I was at home right now.
Nah, I'm all right.
Get closer to the mic.
I'm sorry, guys.
How
Listen,
you doing, Kenny?
I'm fantastic.
I spend my life behind a camera, not in front of a microphone. You guys are going to have to cut me some slack. I just missed some letters in that word.
Yeah.
Oh man, we gotta stop doing these recordings. It's not even late. We're old. It's late. 9:45.
Yeah, this is late for old people.
Yep. So here we are recording. We just had a lengthy meeting, so our brains are kind of fried, I think. But we have some really cool things coming up, and man, we're so excited. We are working on a potential scripted comedy series, which you will be hearing more about, as well as working with some other artists and things.
Just some fun stuff coming.
Yeah, and it's probably people a lot of our friends know, and we're gonna do like some announcement things with them and make it real cool. And we don't want to put the horse before the cart, as they say.
Cart before the horse. You're supposed to put the horse before the cart. That's how it works.
Why do we do a podcast? We can't even speak. All right.
Don't, Polly. Oh, okay.
Paulie was setting his can down on the glass table.
And then I bumped the button with my hat.
And then they were fist bumping because he didn't make a noise, and then he made a noise.
Do more things that Jeremy has to narrate.
No, I won't. I'm done. All right, so here we are, Miserable Pot. Jeez.
This is a good one, guys.
We'll get it. We'll get there. Come on, guys. Be positive.
So if you've been watching these, we would like you guys to give feedback. Do you like what you see now versus what you used to see?
Or hear. Or feel.
Tell us what
we
you
have
feel
a
in your
4-dimensional podcast. What do you feel? Or are we talking emotions?
Smell-o-vision.
It
Okay,
just smells
y'all
like
want to
poop.
start this podcast now? I literally feel like everyone has tuned out except for like 4
Me.
people.
This is the part of the podcast that I listen to.
And then as soon as we get into the content, you're done. Okay, whatever. There's something for everyone except for... I can't say that. This is the worst recording we have ever done.
All right. So what's today's topic?
That's what I want to know. I'm
Y'all
waiting.
don't know. I know. It's actually between 2.
All right. Let's
So-
do both of them at the same time.
Right. No, this is kind of a, I don't know. I want to say it's kind of an easy one. We've heard,
You should spill on yourself.
Nah. I was just trying a new tactic for setting my can down. It didn't work.
what if we just didn't do a topic today?
No, that's a bad idea.
Really?
Yeah. Right now? Yeah. Maybe like 3 hours ago would have been all right.
We probably could have pulled it off. All right. Are we ready? Because I was going into it and then you guys get distracted.
That's my fault.
Are we ready?
That's Polly's fault.
My fault.
All right,
Yeah.
this is where the actual podcast starts. However long we are into this, and also my computer's not plugged in, so we it may die mid cast.
Isn't there a plug over there? No.
Nope.
All right, I can't help you.
Yep. All right, so here we go. You ready for today's topic, which is? Let me set it up first.
Okay.
Oh my God. The preamble. It's killing me.
They already know it because they saw it in the title, but so it's just you guys right now are the only people in the world that doesn't know what this podcast is going to be about.
Actually, right now, no one knows except for you, technically.
Right.
Right now.
And
At
the good Lord.
9:50 on Wednesday, March 4th.
Me and the good Lord. All right, here we go.
Old Jesus.
So the podcast is not going to be about imposter syndrome, but anybody who is a creative, or I love like your reactions. Like I love when like I'm like, yes, they want to talk about this, and that's
Okay,
what
so
I
next
just
time, let's not give positive
like.
reaction.
Get up and leave, and I'm just like, okay,
Another one of these.
I'll add you guys in post. So, Paulie, sometimes I have you give these definitions because you're good at this. So, somebody who is an entrepreneur or starting an endeavor or a creative person, there is a phenomenon known as the imposter syndrome. How would you define that for somebody who's never heard of it? And then we'll go from there.
The imposter syndrome, how I would define it, is just when you're doing something or someone is doing something, especially to what others may perceive as a like a certain level, like a higher level, that you feel that despite you performing and putting out something, that you are just, you have no idea what you're doing, and the imposter part is that you're not who you say you are. You're like, if you're a photographer and you suffer from imposter syndrome and you're, say, a wedding photographer and you're like making money, you have that feeling that you're constantly fooling your clients and the people that appreciate your work. When realistically, what you are doing is the thing, and you're not an imposter.
So it's just if I had to sum it up, I would say it's mainly insecurity that
Yeah.
you don't feel like
You deserve
you deserve the whatever title it is.
yeah. I think this is where it comes down to, is more
Is that like
Yeah,
how you view
title.
it?
Yeah, like a lack of confidence,
Sure.
sort of.
So it's like, I think the clearest example that I can think of is
me every day of my life.
there's somebody, there's people who write, but when are you actually a writer, or a step further, an author? Is just sitting in your house and writing a short story enough to say I'm an author? And I feel like there's two different types of people. There's the person that's just like, they've written something and they're just like, I'm an author. And then there's the other person that's like, I mean, I just write things every once in a while. And people are like, oh, so you're an author? It's like, well, I mean, kinda, And that's kind of where I find that imposter syndrome is just like, well, I don't really feel like a writer, or when am I a writer, or do I have to have something published, or this and that, which leads us to today's topic. We will answer the question and debate this probably a little bit. What is, or when am I a professional? So if somebody asks you, what do you do? Okay. I'm a professional photographer. Mm-hmm. Now, I would, even in the things that I do, I would probably be a little uncomfortable labeling myself a professional. Maybe not. Maybe it depends on who I'm talking to or in exactly what context. But like, you do video work for clients.
Right.
Are you a professional? Somebody out there that's doing things that's like, they probably deal with the same issue as like, well, am I a professional at this yet? So we can look at the dictionary definition, and we will. But before we do, when am I a professional?
Sure. My opinion has evolved over time as I guess I have become more professional. I don't think a professional X, photographer, music producer, writer, filmmaker, especially in a creative field, I don't necessarily think that there's a time that you like. I don't think the term professional is like a goal to reach, a destination. I believe it to be more of a journey. In a little bit more of a broad strokes purposes, I believe a professional is someone who is practicing their craft and creating an income with it, whether that be a full-time income or a part-time income, like in your case.
Mm-hmm.
I think a professional is someone who respects their industry, keeps up with their industry, and cares about what they're doing for the people that are their clients.
So respects their industry, cares about what they're doing. There was another one you said that continually learns. Did you say that? Or
Learning
did I
their
make
craft,
that up?
sharpening their craft,
And then you mentioned being paid.
making money.
So respecting it, learning it, caring about it, and getting paid from it.
Sure. I mean, some people might say like you're a professional when you have a licensed business that's recognized by governing bodies. I don't think that's necessary. I think plus there's such a wide spectrum of how that's viewed across the world. I think if you can create a consistent income to whatever degree, in my opinion, that's when you begin the journey of being a professional.
Let me ask you this, because I actually struggle with this.
Sure.
Who defines you as a professional?
Yourself.
You or
Absolutely yourself. Because others will always say what they want about you, right?
Mhm.
They'll say, oh, he's only been like, you've been doing it for like 2 or 3 years, right?
right?
So they'll only say, oh, he's only been at it for 2 or 3 years. He doesn't even make a full-time income. He's not a professional.
Which is how I feel.
Right. And it's not the case, because when you go to a job, do you bring a level of respect and professionalism with you?
I think so. I mean, I guess I think I suffer sometimes from the imposter syndrome because I think I operate as a professional. Like, roll out the contracts, I discuss things, I meet with the clients, I figure out what needs to be done, I get the equipment together, I go and I shoot it and I edit and I do all the things. But I think because I still feel like there's so much to learn.
Here's the thing. I have been learning to be a photographer, professional aside. I've been learning the craft of photography
Right.
since 2004. I still, on a regular basis, feel like I am just getting started. Like daily, I look at other people who have been doing this for like 2 years and are killing it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm struggling, and I'm like living with family right now. And I'm like, I'm my imposter syndrome is I am confident in the fact that I'm a photographer and a professional, but I feel like I'm always in a constant state of being like at the beginning of being a professional, which is not necessarily the case, right? I mess up. I approach certain situations wrong, or I say the wrong thing when I'm trying to sell to a client, or, I make a mistake when I'm delivering or, producing the product. And that like is realistically just a part of running a business,
Right.
making mistakes and learning, you know what I mean? And even making the mistakes 2, 3, 4 times, until you learn the lesson. But I think it's important to see yourself, even because I also suffer from imposter syndrome, to see yourself as a professional and to treat yourself and respect yourself as a professional.
And I do
that.
think that I do that. I think I do a very good job of pushing past that but that feeling is always like with each job, I'm just like,
It's an anxiety, a fear, maybe.
yeah.
Plus, some people in creative work find a thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they stick with it. And there's two types of those types of people. There's the people that find a thing, like a look or a style or a client type, and they just excel and they just kill it. There's some people that reach a point and for years continue to churn out that same level of work and never stop to think that I'm not respecting what I do enough to invest in education in some way, even if it's free education online, right? So the you guys are familiar with the 10,000 hour theory,
Right.
right? What makes a master? So I think that that's a level of it. I think that you can call yourself a professional in that 10,000 hour journey. You don't have to be at 10,000 hours to be a professional. But I think it all comes down to just the respect of it and recognizing like I have growth ahead of me and I always will.
Well, I also think that for me, the imposter syndrome is a superpower because
It's a motivator.
it's such a motivator because that feeling of not being quite good enough or not being as good as someone else or, not having the experience that someone else may have makes me work a lot harder than I would if I felt like, oh, I could walk in there and kill this. And sometimes I do feel like that. But even then, I'm just like, there's
Sometimes you're also feeling that lack in what you're going to produce based on what your potential could be, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you're like, I'm going to kill it, but even though I know I'm going to kill it, I know that I'm going to go home and be like, I could have done this better. I could have done this better.
Oh yeah, definitely. That's a good point.
So I mean, like that's why we always say like comparisons are a terrible thing, right? The only person that you need to be better than is yourself yesterday.
Yeah.
Because that's what makes you get to those points, those people that you see that are like, I either want to create work like they do, or I want to work with the clients that they do, or like similar clients, or, I want to have this lifestyle that they have that is afforded to them by this level that they've achieved in their business and in their craft. I mean, but the goal should always be better than your previous self and use that as a motivator, the other people around you and yourself, but don't let it stop you from doing something,
never. Never.
Because I mean, I do that sometimes. It's, I actually suffer more so from, I suffer more from the fear of success sometimes. Like if I do this thing, it can lead to something awesome. And then like something along the lines, I had this happen to me the other day. I realized that I forgot to send an important email to someone. And I'm like, something along the lines over the last 3 months, I battled with it. And then I reached a conclusion mentally. And then because of that like argument or whatever that I had inside of myself, I didn't get back to it because I defeated myself, right? And then I forgot that I lost. And then I was sitting on my bed and I'm like, I am a idiot. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's just those things like pick it up, try not to do it again, give it your best. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
The one thing that, just picking up, you said it earlier, the question you posed is who is it that defines you as a professional, or whose viewpoint, I guess, kind of really matters? And you said yourself. And I would almost completely disagree unless you can explain to me what you meant. Because I think I don't look at it like that. unless I'm just misunderstanding you, because I really look at it as you're a professional when other people consider you that.
Sure. Yeah, but I guess where I'm coming from is there will always be people who don't, right? So you want the people that you want to work with to see you as a professional. How do you do that in the creative industry? You create
But can
work.
you? Sorry, I had to interrupt you.
Yeah, no.
Keep going.
You create work and you create a reputation, right? Those are like the two things. Like let people know, people will know you from other people, the word of mouth sort of thing, and then your work speaks for itself.
Okay, so this is my issue with that. With one thing you said is that there always be people who will not define you as that or whatever. I don't know if I necessarily agree with that. Because well, let's think of an example. I'm gonna do an unfair example first
Okay.
to make my point, and then we'll try to get a better one. Like LeBron James is a professional basketball player,
Sure.
because he plays in a professional league. Okay, all right. Now let's do a more. You can't argue that, right?
Would you,
So
just out of
let's
curiosity,
go-
would you consider a minor league in a sport to be a professional league?
Okay, let me answer your question with a question. The XFL that is just 3 or 4 weeks in right now. They were celebrating a guy after a touchdown. They did an interview with him, and they said, "This is your." It was his first professional touchdown, and I'm like, "Okay,
That's
you
good.
tracking with me?"
Yeah.
Okay, so again, it struck me because I'm like, yeah, but it's the XFL. So, benefit of a doubt, I thought this through, and this is part of the reason we're talking about the topic was that moment. And I was like, you know what? He's getting paid to do this. I don't know how much, it doesn't matter. And he's playing against other people that are getting paid to do this.
Can I
So-
add to what you're saying real quick?
Right.
It's probably the same argument that people would have like with like WWE versus MMA.
Right.
Like professional wrestler versus a professional, or even like actual like Olympic wrestling, or like those like similar type sports, whereas professional wrestling is like a entertainment based industry primarily, but
Okay.
they're also athletes.
So these
You
were
know
the
what I mean?
these were kind of the unfair examples,
Yeah.
like LeBron James. Okay, so who is your favorite photographer?
All around, Zach Arias.
Okay, so let's just leave it at that. So, can anybody argue? I'm not saying like, can somebody say the words?
Yeah.
Like he's not a professional. But could somebody legitimately make a legitimate claim that he's not a professional photographer?
No, because he's been making and supporting his life and his family and those types of things, as far as I know, solely off of his photography career and things in orbit since I don't know, 2003, the last time I think something like that, when he got back into photography.
Okay, so the point that I kind of am arguing is that you said, well, anybody could, you're not going to change everybody's viewpoint or whatever it was, or some people could deny that you're not. So, but that was your reasoning, right, for saying that other people didn't determine whether you were professional or not. Am I right in saying that?
Yeah, my approach with that too was a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for? Abstract in a way, because there are so many, and it comes into creative fields. There are some other things like you're bringing up like XFL versus NFL, or like actual minor league sports like the MLB versus minor league baseball. The in creative field, I feel like it's a little bit more nebulous, but like if you want to be a professional electrician, there is a path to follow. You have to it's a little bit more traditional. You go like apprenticeships, and then you get certified, and then you become a certified electrician. Being a teacher, you have education, you
Right.
student teach, you
There's
get certification.
qualifications
Right.
to-
So in those kinds of fields, there's a pretty black and white.
Like you either got your DDS or you don't.
Right.
Yeah.
You either got your PhD or you don't.
Right. But in creative fields, anybody can be anything. Now, you might not be a good anything, right? You might not be the anything that a lot of people are looking for or that really anybody is looking for. But I can be a music producer. I would be a very bad one.
But are you a professional?
No, but see,
But-
the thing is, I could probably find a way to make money doing it.
Right.
So that's where the gray area
my
comes
point-
from.
My point is that in my view, that almost the term professional, when I say, am I a professional or not, I would base that off of other people's view of me and not
An
just
external versus an internal.
right,
Sure.
as opposed to just what's that, and like you said, sure, some people could look at you and just say, no, you're not. No, but I guess I'm talking more of like the social proof aspect of it. It's like, so now after 12 years or whatever of producing with other people, I would say that other people, the way they talk about me is in kind of in the context of me being a professional.
Are you mixing
Like that's
conditions? You're almost just the way you're describing it to me. What I see is you're having an internal feeling about an external support.
right. So I'm internalizing the feedback that I think that I'm getting from other people. I was like, oh, wait, I could say I'm a professional and they wouldn't bat an eye at that now. Whereas maybe 5 years ago, if I would have said, oh, I'm a professional, that I feel like people would have been like,
Well, here,
it's kind of like the person that puts like CEO in their Twitter bio. And you're like,
Right.
wait, the CEO of what?
But
You know
see,
what I'm
like,
saying?
but that's what you're saying though. If that person says
I'm the CEO.
I'm a CEO because that's how they feel.
Yeah, but if you don't have the social backing,
Right.
and it only leads to you people going, like, that doesn't make you a professional. I feel like it's the social aspect.
I don't even like it
makes
when
you-
people put like founder in their bios. It's like, good, you started something. Congratulations. A lot of people
right,
do.
and it's like, and you do like you cast. So I guess maybe, and again, what we're saying is kind of like what I'm saying is like people when you label yourself something, people cast judgment on that.
Right.
So like if the judgment is in the negative, like I feel like if I could say, yeah, I'm a CEO, I'm a founder, I'm a professional, but that doesn't really mean anything.
Is it the level of success? Because like you said, you don't like it when people put founder in their bio. But if Steve Jobs put founder in his bio, would you respect that?
I think people at that level don't. You don't need to tell, like, Steve Jobs doesn't need to tell people that he founded Apple. It's just known.
Well, I mean, I don't know if they don't or if they do, but I'm saying if they did,
What did Mark?
You wouldn't bat an eye at that.
right?
What did? Okay, yeah, I'm kind of going off rabbit trail on that. Can we backtrack for just a second because I don't think you guys really answered.
Are you going to backtrack like you did in the meeting and went back like 6 topics in an hour?
How do you guys define a professional in a creative field?
I'm unsure, to be honest with you.
Take it outside of yourself. Like, how would you?
Let me give an answer. So,
Okay,
'cause
go ahead. Go ahead.
I'm pretty sure, and I'm sure you can debate this with me, but if I look at somebody and I generally think that person is knowledgeable about this thing, I respect the product, the end product that they create, and I guess that's it. If I look at somebody and I'm like, I trust that person with this thing, they're knowledgeable about it, especially beyond me,
Right.
and they have a good end product, like you're a professional to me.
I agree.
So-
Like judging someone
And
else.
you can label yourself that thing, and I won't.
See, that's where I have
But
the
what if-
issue
what
of
if-
like labeling myself.
yourself though. But I'm saying like for them, like if you label yourself, yeah, sure. Like yep.
Right,
what about
right.
someone who you trust them and their product, but they are not working in that field? Like, let's shout out to Chris Carneal again, right? So he does a lot of things.
Literally every podcast.
You're a multifaceted individual, Chris. Like a diamond. You trust him for his audio knowledge under an umbrella of many things, right?
But he actually does that as a profession.
Right. But what does he do?
Audio work.
Is he like a actual is he a live audio engineer? Is he a studio audio engineer?
Well, I don't know exactly what he does, but what are you getting at? Keep going.
I'm getting at, you trust him very, very, very much so. You trust him in these fields. Would you say he is a professional in all of these things that he does? Very knowledgeable, very talented. Would you call him a professional?
Yes.
Okay.
And let me to add on to what I said before. I said if they're knowledgeable, like I trust them with that thing, or in that like I like their end product. Kind of what I'm saying essentially is I would hire that person and pay them to do that thing. I view them as a professional. I think that's kind of what I said, but what it boils down to. So I think if I read the technical definition, this is a good spot to put it in. The adjective and the noun. The adjective definition: engaged in a specified activity as one's main paid occupation rather than just as a pastime. So that's what a professional is.
Hobbyist versus a professional.
A noun, a person engaged or qualified in a profession. So that doesn't have anything to do with being paid. That's just you're engaged in that thing. And that's the way I look at it, because I think a lot of people, the easy answer to this, there's people been watching this podcast, listening, screaming, going, if you get paid for it, if you're doing it and it's your job, that's when you're a professional. And to me, I'm like, man, it's like kind of shallow, because it's like, I just don't know. Like, okay, let's put it this way. There's artists who don't get any success until, this is a good example. So let's take painters. I feel like there's a couple examples of this. But say if you're a professional artist, you're a painter, you get paid for your work. But what about all the people who their artwork wasn't appreciated or famous until after they died? Mm-hmm. So let's talk about this dynamic. Were they not professional when nobody knew about them?
I think maybe you're observing the difference, but using the wrong terminology between a professional
and a master.
And a master. Because I think like a master is a destination, but a professional is the path.
Well, it's the level of skill, and profession is maybe getting paid for that level of skill.
I think profession can begin. You begin becoming a professional when you are careered in it, even at the beginning, or getting paid to do it. But it's I just like I said at the beginning, I just think it's something that like you can be a professional with varying levels of skill, right? Because in a lot of creative fields, there's so much to learn. Things are always changing.
Right.
But a master, though.
Mm-hmm.
A master.
Maybe not master. The
Let's see. You alluded to the 10,000 hour thing earlier, and I used to reference that a lot, and I don't much anymore because I read somebody's rebuttal to that, and I can't remember. I'm not prepared to talk about this, obviously, but I read a rebuttal to it that was just basically talking about why it was a load of crap, and I was like, oh, and it like really opened my eyes, because one portion of it was just the interpretation of what you're doing. So you could put 10,000 hours into becoming a great instrumentalist. But if nobody cares,
It doesn't matter though.
right? But it does. Why do you say it doesn't matter?
Because in a way you said it. I mean, like the people that are discovered after their death or the people that are never discovered after their death. You can completely, especially some things that don't evolve as much and you die by a certain point, right? You can completely understand the technical side of something. You know, you could become a master pianist, right? And you can do it all in your garage, and then you could die, and no one would ever know. That doesn't make you a bad piano player.
Right.
See, I think so. I do think
Just makes you bad at getting your stuff out there.
I do think being a professional is attached to getting paid. Because when I think profession, I think someone who's working for a living in that field. Even like you said, even if it's part-time. So I think that the 10,000 hour thing is mastering a skill and being really good at it, but not necessarily being professional, because you might not be operating in whatever that skill or talent is to make a living. However, you may not be 10,000 hour masterful skill level, and you can still be a professional at the 5,000 hour level.
Right. And I'll say about the 10,000 hour rule, I've always viewed that with a suspension of disbelief. It's like a thing to say that is broad reaching, that is it's a construct, right? It's the idea. You don't become a master at something when you've been doing it for 10,000 hours.
Well, is it is it more like a guideline?
Yeah,
kind of
I
like the
think
80-20 principle?
Yeah, I think it's meant more like that.
Yeah, and I mean, especially if you read the book and you understand like the origin of it.
Yeah.
Like when he talks about the Beatles and how they played all these shows like 8 hours a day, 7 days a week or something like that in Hamburg before they were ever famous on the world stage. They were learning and mastering how to play together, not necessarily mastering music or their instruments or musicality or, you know, any other theory or whatever. They were mastering the Beatles, right? They were becoming the thing that they needed to be to be themselves, right?
Which is interesting to me because I'm a musician and a songwriter and recorded and things. And I have tried, but I do not like the Beatles. And for the most part, I don't even really appreciate people's like admiration for them.
I mean, I think that just comes down to the subjectivity of art, probably.
Which is why the master thing kind of throws me too.
I think it's just to me, it's always meant a long-term commitment to your thing. You know, like putting in the time, because you could also do something for 10,000 hours and never grow, right? You can.
I don't know.
I think it's possible that you can do the same thing over and over again and think that you know it all. Some people just are like that, right?
Which is
So-
a different kind of imposter syndrome.
Right. I can say maybe not 10,000 hours, maybe not 10 years, but I know people in my field, know people who do something like their shtick, right? And that's the thing that they always do. And they've been doing that for 10 years.
So maybe that person isn't a well-rounded master, but that one thing that they do,
Okay.
they've gotten better at that one thing.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, I guess you can be a little bit more specific with the mastering.
That to me, it's in the word. If you're mastering something, it's almost like you're like dwindling it down to a very
Like honing
concise
in.
thing.
Yeah.
If you're going to master something, I mean, that's Like
You laughing at it?
It's not.
I know. I just thought of what
broad-
he did in the other podcast where he was like, "If you focus light down, you can cut and do stuff."
Well, that to me, it's in the word. Like I mastered. It's like
The other thing too
you-
is,
you
but some
become a-
people aren't thinking about that. Some people aren't like, I'm mastering this thing. Some people are just literally doing that because it's the thing that brings in money, right? There's give
So
and take in
it
it,
just
but I
brings
think
us-
that people can put that time in and not become a master, maybe in a more general sense.
Right. I see what you're saying.
But I agree with you though. Yeah.
So this it takes us back to the question. So to me, it goes back to do people accept that? Because really, what we're talking about is a title. I think essentially, like, if I call myself this, do people agree or disagree with it? Like, that's the way that I see it. And you're shaking your heads, like, kind of like maybe, so we talked about this, the Twitter bio or the CEO thing or whatever. Like, I feel like with you, let's say if you stop taking clients for your video work, I feel like most people, if you said, I'm a professional videographer, nobody would bat an eye at that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And to me, that's just like, okay, like the jury of your peers has said that that's okay. That's the way that I view it. So like to me, if somebody asks me the question, if they're like, hey, Jeremy, I do illustrations on the side, or I do illustrations, let's not qualify it in any type of way. Like, can I call myself a professional illustrator? My response would kind of be like, well, what would people say about you? Like, do you think if you said that people would agree, or do you think that there's nothing to merit that? And like, well, what merits it?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's all the things you said. Maybe it's some of the things I said. Maybe it's like a conglomerate.
I think there's there's the dictionary definition, right? And I would say that that's probably what general society would accept as a professional, right? Maybe not a jury of your peers, the regular people, the people that aren't filmmakers or aren't musicians or music producers or aren't photographers or designers or illustrators or aren't these things, or maybe they're extremely talented in some other thing creatively or something outside of creativity.
Are we professional podcasters?
No.
Why?
Because I apparently kicked the table earlier.
Well, you're not. Let's talk about us. But why not?
No, you're not, because you accepted me into the podcast. Boom. Roasted.
Part of it is we're not operating at a professional level. So all right.
But
So
why?
look, if you
Because
break
we have 3 different microphone stands.
No,
if you
slash
break
mics.
down certain aspects of it, is our podcast, to me, edited professionally, the audio? I would say yes, because that's what you do for a living.
then I would say no.
But again,
Imposter syndrome.
but again, I have the authority to say you're the professional in that sense of the definition that we discussed earlier.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? But I don't think all of us as a collective are professional podcasters.
And I think that's probably where it goes back to like how we're saying like professional versus master, and maybe not master, something other term, insert
We're
term
neither,
here.
by the way. Yet.
Like, because I feel like one is a abstract, or one way that we're looking at it is an abstract, and one of it is very concrete. Like you're saying he is professional in editing this audio. He is saying he is not. Where's the breakdown? Is it just some imposter syndrome? Is it
I think
lack
so.
of confidence?
Or I think it's understanding the lacking in the process as well.
Right.
Knowing that there's better equipment,
But doesn't that
location, treatment,
doesn't
things
that
like that.
also allow you to fall into the category of a professional because you know there is a need?
Right, but that wasn't. I don't think that you said that the audio was edited like in a professional way or on a
Yes.
professional level, and I said no. Now, if you would have said you're a professional, whatever
The audio was edited by a professional.
I'm sure.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
the audio like on that level necessarily this? I'm like, no, because the room could be better. This could be better. This could be better. So again, there's a whole nother thing. A professional could do unprofessional work, but then what is unprofessional work?
Or is everything a professional does professional? Nah, I'm just kidding.
No. Because
I think part of the reason you're saying we're not professional podcasters. I think if I ask you the same question, if it had the same quality, everything, but I ask you 2 years from now, I think you would say yes.
yeah,
You agree?
Yeah.
You just don't feel like we haven't paid our dues yet.
exactly.
Oh.
Which
So I
is
think-
why I feel the way I feel about filmmaking right now. I feel like I'm still kind of paying my
Regardless
dues.
of your work, you're just like, I just need to put more work in before I can
Even-
put myself in their category.
Right. Even the work that I'm most proud of, even when I get paid what I deserve, I know my clients look at me as professional, rightfully so. I still don't feel that way because I feel like I know there's
I'm not-
constant learning, but
Yeah.
I just feel like there's so much more.
I think you made me think this. I think part of the problem might be in your view, and this isn't. And I say this because I know this is one of my ways that I look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm a professional photographer, right?
I agree.
I say that because I've been learning how to be a photographer for over a decade, right? Have I been full time creating an income by photography alone for that entire time? No. Have I been creating an income by from photography for? Yeah, I've only been doing it for full. Oh my gosh, I can't talk. Full time for like about 2 years, right?
Mm-hmm.
Have I been making money as a photographer for most of that period of time? Yeah. I shot my first paying gig was a wedding, right? In 2007, I believe it was. It was terrible. Like I still have I have a book that I made with the pictures. Awful. But I made money doing it, right? So I've been making money as a photographer for 12 or 13 years, right? However, in photography and in filmmaking, there's so many things to do. So part of our journey as creatives is to find in our craft is to find those things that we connect with the most, right? And I've kind of been doing that the last 2 years. I decided to step away from wedding photography and seek out the commercial photography industry. Now that's a huge broad spectrum of things, right? So I've been trying out different things. I've been doing real estate photography a lot, and architecture and things like that. The last 2 years or the last year, I've been trying to focus more on working with some brands and trying to connect with certain things. The last few months with some guidance by a good friend of mine, Matt Odom in Macon, Georgia, he's been helping me understand more of the commercial industry, but kind of related to the things that he primarily shoots. So a lot of publication, working with a lot of brands. He's worked with a lot of brands and a lot of publications, but he's been kind of like giving me advice on how to approach like agriculture and industry clients. The last month, as both of you know, I set a goal that I want to try and shoot something for Toyota by the end of this year. That might just end up being a Toyota dealership, but I would like it to be corporate, right? So I've been trying to create a body of work in automotive photography. Now that's ironically what actually got me into photography to begin with. So I'm a little bit full circle at the moment right now.
That's true.
But I would not call myself a professional automotive photographer. I haven't made money from it, but that's not the reason why. It's because I know that I am at the bottom of the barrel when it comes to that. Would I call myself a professional real estate photographer? No, even though that's primarily where my income comes from. Partly because I don't necessarily feel that's where my niche is. But
And this is why the income thing bothers me. Because, like, I just feel like there's so much more to it than whether you're making money at the moment from it or whether it's your profession at the moment. And I feel like when we're talking a normal conversation with normal people in the normal context of life, when we say the word professional, we don't think they get paid to do that thing. When we hear the word professional, we think they
do that at a certain level.
They do that at a high level.
But I think being a professional and being a master coexist, and they have to be connected. But being a master doesn't have to be connected with being a professional.
What about going back to the idea of sports? What if someone who is a professional athlete, say, let's go to like LeBron James, or not even, let's go to like Shaquille O'Neal. He was a professional NBA or a professional basketball player, what is most reductive as I can make it. But he's not anymore. Is he still making money from basketball? In many ways, yes. He's a commentator. He does basketball-related promotion things. He probably has an income from the NBA still in some way. Like,
see, I think professional is just related to career/job. Like you're doing it.
But see, I would look at somebody that's just so like there's people that are professional athletes, but they're not necessarily in a professional league of any sort. Like there's literally some people that just like.
I like by the end of this podcast, we're not going to have determined anything, but it's been fun.
No, and I think and part of it is because there's people out there that, I mean, the reason I wanted to do this podcast is there's people out there going like, they're probably selling themselves short.
Sorry, the headphones say professional on them. I just thought that was funny. I just noticed that.
What makes these headphones? No. Maybe we are professional because we're wearing headphones. That say
Except for me,
professional.
because I'm wearing these things.
Yeah. But I feel like there's people out there who may be selling themselves short because they're thinking imposter syndrome wise, like, oh, I'm not a professional at this. And it's like, is that because you're saying you're not, or because you're not taking like the steps? Like, I think it's important for people to know what they are, but also what they could be if they weren't afraid to call themselves a professional, or just to be honest enough to know, okay, I'm not there yet. Because we've said this before in multiple miserable company things, that the quote, I think it was Stephen Pressfield, where he said, the counterfeit artist is wildly self-confident or overconfident. And it's like that person that's like, CEO. It's like, chill. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, sure, anybody could call them CEO of anything, But again, it's like the people's reaction to that. I don't know. I guess my point is for that person that's out there going back and forth about it. Like, am I professional? Am I not? Or what do I need to do to be considered a professional? This and that. I would just say, in my case, it was working to a point for a period of time to where people began to look at me and kind of project that onto me to where I could get to a point where I was comfortable in saying this is what I am, and that people agreed with that thing. And I think a big part of that is time. But I also don't think that you have to say, well, you know, the next 5 or 6 years, I might start saying this or that. I mean, you know, what, in my estimation, like you said, we're not going to land on anything. Nobody has talked me out of my original position.
Yeah, that's like on any debate. Will
Like nobody's
we're entrenched.
like ever really like. I get the master and professional thing, but to me, that's almost like two different conversations in a sense. So like when it comes to that person, like we've talked about it all the time. This has been a reoccurring theme in our lives and other people's lives around us. Like, am I a professional at this or not? My thing would be, what do people say about you? And that's kind of where I still land on it.
I think that's you, you know, and I think.
So what's your final?
I think this is it right here. I think it depends on the type of person you are. A lot of things in life and in growth and success come to self-awareness, right? So for you, becoming a professional it needs to be primarily external. For others, it might need to be a mixture. And for others, it might need to just be believing in yourself and being fully internal. If you've put in time and you care about what you're doing, why not? Who cares? You know, like if you're making money,
But you care.
What do you mean?
Because it frustrates you when people do that in their Twitter bios.
But I'm talking about like those people that are like CEO
so what is it for
of
you
their
then?
company of themselves.
So for you, it's more your personal view and your own reflection.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's such a thing to get hung up on. You know what I mean? I don't think it matters to me or to people like me when you view yourself as a professional, because it's a stumbling block for some people. It's a reason to fuel imposter syndrome. Am I? And it's not even professional. It's like, am I a photographer? Right?
Or like he said, it could be fuel. So it could be the opposite.
Sure. Yeah. For me though, it would be a hang up to get too caught up in.
So we're completely opposite.
Yeah.
Let's boil it down. I'm like, whatever people project on me, if I get to the point where the jury of my peers is saying that's what I am, then if I can say it, people accept it. That's the point. Your point is, I determine
just the
that
kind
moment.
of person I am. I have to like me. I have to like what I do. I'm terrible at taking compliments. I don't know how to react when someone's like, "Oh, you did really good at this." I'm like, okay.
So boil it down for me. You're just like, you decide when you're a professional based off your own criteria.
Mm-hmm.
Is that a good way to explain it?
Yeah.
All right, boil yours down.
So I think when I think professionalism, or not professionalism, but being a professional is when you are working, making money, and operating at a somewhat of a masterful skill level. And that's a professional. I don't think that necessarily means that if you're not a professional, you're not good at what you do. And I also think you could be masterful and very skillful at what you do at a professional level, but not be a professional. That's just my opinion. But I also kind of agree with both of you in a sense. You
can also be a professional and not be good at something that you're doing.
I don't agree with that.
Well, I mean, if we're going by the
no, I said you have
definition.
I said you have to be masterful too.
Right. No, I'm saying if we're just going by the dictionary definition.
But this is why we're talking about this podcast, because the dictionary definition is just not.
Because none of us
does not suffice.
None of us gave what
in
the
real
exact
life
definition of the dictionary was.
Yeah.
Based on our own personal. This is just what I believe. I just think that you have to be working at a masterful level and you have to be making money.
Okay. The only.
So that's the part you disagree with.
So right.
Yeah.
So give me this, and we got to end soon because the computer's gonna die.
We got a still red light on the camera over there.
Yeah.
All right. Good.
We're still recording. So So this is the only thing about that. The masterful level.
Y'all are wrong, by the way. I'm just kidding.
I like do not want to accept that in your definition.
You don't
And
like it.
maybe I'll give you a chance to explain it to me.
Okay.
Because like, let's talk hip hop.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's talk professional rappers. So do you look at somebody who's selling millions of records? Let's say like a mumble rapper, somebody who rhymes the same word, somebody you just can't stand,
Right.
right? And it's just, you look at them and you're like, that takes no skill. They're whatever. Like,
Uh-oh,
that
your
to
theory's
me,
crumbling. I'm just kidding.
no, that to me, like, if you can look at somebody who's in the profession, who's making money,
Right.
who's doing it, but even subjectively look at them and say, takes no skill. There's no mastery in that.
I don't
Do
agree.
you then look at them and say that that's
They
not a
mastering
professional?
mastering the mumble rap then?
Well, it still takes a certain level to perform that stuff, to put it together, to get in the booth, to a work ethic, all that stuff, even though maybe the lyricism you might not consider, which is subjective, which you might not consider at a master level, everything that they're doing as an artist, they're still the master of what they're doing.
They've mastered
That style.
that thing.
Because there's 1,000 mumble rappers, and if it was so easy to just be a mumble rapper and just be masterful, I
So
mean,
then they're not a professional rapper as much as they are a professional performer or artist.
yeah. Matter of fact, you could take somebody like Waka Flocka. He says he's not a rapper; he's a crunk artist. There's a lot of people who
Just
view
making
themselves
crap up.
like that because they're not. I'm not getting up there to be the next Tupac or the next Nas or Jay-Z.
Okay, so then here's the conflict. To my point.
Mm-hmm.
So you're okay with that? Like he's a crunk artist?
Yeah.
No problem.
Yep.
If he called himself a professional lyricist, that would bother you.
Yes, but he would be justified in calling himself that.
Kenny's just too nice.
I'm not being nice.
No, I see what you're saying. Because you kind of convinced me too,
Right.
with what you said. So I'm not.
And if he wasn't at that level, then I'd be like, no, you're not. There has to be some level of mastery to get you to a professional level where you're. There just does.
But
So you
sometimes,
kind of won me over, and then you said it again.
but sometimes
I
the
just don't agree.
mastery is not even the thing that they're considered, right?
So we're back to the title.
But
and
now
how
you're
people
you're
judge.
putting the authority on other people to give you the title, which you said doesn't matter. You said it's internal.
I'm going on you. I'm going on like on your
Right.
thought train.
Right.
Some people like
Because those people have fans that label them masters at what they're doing, which goes exactly with my definition. That's why they have a huge number of fans.
You have to have a mastery.
okay. What about
I'm like back and forth. You say one thing, I'm like, yeah, he's right. And then you say it again, I'm like, nah.
I'm just gonna stop talking.
I think the problem is like in music and like that genre, you can have someone who is an artist and a professional, and those could be two different things. Because kind of, and correct me if I'm wrong, where you're going at is saying a crunk artist, right, is they're creating their thing, maybe. If they're the first person to say that, they're creating their genre. So they're allowing themselves this playground to play in, to be themselves. And that's okay because that art and art in general is subjective. Someone will like that. Their fans are out there.
Because there's people who say Tupac is not a master lyricist at all.
Sure. I guess what I'm getting at is like, there's a subjective way to look at it, and what is it? Objective way to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's probably why you keep going back and forth, maybe because you're saying like they're a master or they're a professional at this random thing they decided to make up and do, and they're being successful at it, and they're making money off of it. But the objective being, if you look at their industry on a larger scale, or they're as a macro versus a micro, they're not what a professional rapper normally looks like, right? Because they're creating their own thing inside of a thing.
Yeah, you could say that. Yeah.
So it's like the artist is the professional because they're a professional at this thing that they made up.
Like Jackson Pollock.
Oh my God, that is exactly where my mind went when I said that.
Like abstract art. Like there's technically no mastery to it unless there is, but it's only mastery if people recognize it as mastery, which is back to my point. Otherwise, you're just throwing paint at a canvas.
But isn't every artist doing that? Some are just throwing it very gently with a paintbrush.
Oh, shut up. Our last podcast was Bob Ross. So, but like seriously, like
Bobby.
abstract art is completely up for interpretation. And how do you become a professional abstract artist? Simply by everybody looking at it and go, "Oh, I like that," and everyone goes, "Oh, I like it too. Oh, I like it too." And then that person's pile of
things,
acrylic paint that looks like nothing, is all of a sudden popular and not the other person's.
That's perceived value, right? So,
which is all that matters,
right? And I think that's why the dictionary definition has to exist. There has to be a black and white somewhere, and then you go up from there to mastery. And mastery can be in a artistic field or a non-artistic field. And then when you go mastery in an artistic field, you go specifics, and then it's subjective. You go mastery in a non-artistic field, and it's like you're either a plumber or you're just a guy who's going to not fix my toilet.
So if it's subjective, then that means it's up to the jury of your peers.
Not just your peers. It's up to anyone who can observe it.
So now you agree with me.
And me. No, I do agree with you. I think for people like you, you have to be that way. That's fine.
Right. I know. Okay, we have to end.
I think we're all right and we're all wrong, and you all disagree with us, and you agree with us.
Right. The last thing you say on the podcast, you sit up into the microphone.
First thing I said, right, too.
Okay, so let's just end it. We have to end it. We just have to end it. How about this? Send us your definitions and thoughts. Who do you agree with? Paulie, Jeremy, or Kenny? Don't say Kenny because I'm not sure.
And also tell us your favorite Jackson Pollock painting.
Yes, it's called Squigglies at Night.
Squigglies.
We gotta save this before the computer dies.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
See ya. Ow.